Ding ding ding, round 2. First stand continued into its second day out in Korea, and it was a stinker for NA and EU. Karmine Corp were up against CTBC Flying Oysters, and Team Liquid faced up against Top Esports. And both Western teams got rolled 2-0. Initialize here, and bearer of bad news I may be, but I'll at least try to make it fun. Let's dive into it. There's no beating around the bush. Karmine Corp were humbled up against the CTBC Flying Oysters. It was 2-0, and it was not close. CFO had finally beaten their regional demons, looking at you Talon, to win in the newly renamed LCP for the first time since 2022 to make it to first stand. And for a team that has been on the verge of being the best in their region for years, there's still something of an unknown to Western audiences. Not sure that'll be the case anymore. In the finest traditions of International League of Legends, everyone sleeps on the LCP team, until they slap you in the face with lightning-fast collapses and crisp team fighting. They're even running a 6-man roster with 2 different top laners, which is pretty fun for fearless drafting. You might recognize a few of these Flying Oyster players. Junja was part of the EDG roster that won Worlds in 2022, though Zhizhe was the primary player at the tournament, and Doggo and Kyoing have been stellar players in the region for years. All this is to say that Flying Oysters are legit, and certainly not to be dismissed. These players are experienced and dangerous, and very cohesive within the style they play. Hongkyu is the notable exception in mid lane, and he looked fantastic in his debut international series. And Karmine Corp? They just didn't look ready. Game 1, Casey drafted a very heavy dive comp. Vi plus Ambessa has been a staple of top teams worldwide as a brutal 1-2 ult combo. And adding in Aurora, Kai'Sa and Rakan theoretically makes it nigh impossible for the recipient of said combo to survive. About that, CFO got their hands on Rumble and Skarner, 2 of the most banned champions this season. Yes, nerfs have come on through, but the baseline kits are just so strong for both of them. Add in Victor, Ezreal and Leona and you have a triumvirate of great scaling, team fighting and disengage. On top of that, Rumble beats anything not named Galio handedly in lane, Victor is a tough matchup for Aurora, and Leona is more than fine into the Kai'Sa Rakan. Let me make it clear, Casey's draft makes sense. It's a draft we've seen across multiple regions, it's nothing new. The issue is what they drafted it into. There were just so many tools to neutralize the dive. With great early objective control, CFO were very happy to play for first ults, after not being contested in the river all that hard. When they did pull the trigger though, it was ruthless. Straight after taking the first dragon, Junja goes careening under bot turret and ults both enemy laners. And then he and Kyoing immediately punish the teleporting Vladdy straight after. If you want a case study on the teleport speed changes affecting pro play, that is it right there. But on the other hand, when KC pulled the trigger, it just wasn't anywhere near as precise. A great example of that is around the contest for second dragon. Yike pairs up with Canna to use the Ambessa Vi 1-2 I mentioned to kill off Hongkyu, but CFO mitigate the extended play so well. Skarner ults 3 people and holds them over the literal flames of the Rumble equalizer and traps KC on the wrong side of the map.
As Hongkyu just held in position, there is the public execution as Junjia gets 3 in the Impale. Targamas over the wall, but they are outmanned. There's a true shot barrage onto 3 though, and KC are on the wrong side of the map with not a whole lot of health bar to speak of. Yike able to get himself out of there, but Junji is over that wall immediately. Not a lot of damage following after this fight, but he'll still get slammed into the wall given that sunlight.
Even worse, Kalist was miles away under bot tier 1 and in no position to join the dive. We talked about the tools CFO had to punish imprecise dives. There you have it. The frustrating thing is, KC did have moments where their combos should have worked, or at least gotten a kill. But split targets and split calls spoke to a team not on the same page. The fight around third dragon shows it in 4K. It started with a great pick on Kyoing, but then while Yike and Vladdy jump the Rumble, Targamas splits off to engage onto Doggo and Hongkyu. KC get neither target and lose Yike on the way out. It's disastrous.
Incredibly well. Maybe not necessarily the Rumble as much, but Rest has been playing it exceptionally as, okay, they don't land the solar flare, but there's another 2-man impale from Junjia, and look at it, he hasn't even lost health. It is absurd, kind of trying to dash around the fight, but he dashes to the death chamber instead. And Yike He's running the wrong direction, and he's not going to be getting out of this one. Once again, Doggo just hops over.
There isn't too much more to say here. The game played out in largely the same fashion until KC failed to wield the power of the Fnatic pause hack. After a brief tech pause, KC full send at Doggo in the mid lane, don't kill him, and end up losing enough members that CFO can just run to Atakan. It takes a while longer, but at that point it was a done deal. CFO 1-0.
CFO picking up their first win here in first stand.
It doesn't get better in the second game. KC end up with a pretty hard to execute draft. Yone and Jace are split push threats with Varus, Nautilus, and a pretty out of meta really, Brand, as a sort of poke and pick combo. It's a lot of damage, but not a lot of combined HP. And even with a tank Jace build from Canna, they were struggling for frontline. Whereas CFO on the other hand, stuck to their roots with a cookie cutter front to back. Talia and MF provide the damage, while Sion, Sejuani and Rel set them up for success. That's basically what happened. A fantastic early gank from Junja breaks the early lane pressure of Kalist and Targamas, and Kaiwing pairs up with his jungle again at just shy of the 8-minute mark to get Doggo another kill.
And sort of,
Ooh, look at this.
past the test of time as Junji coming actually over the wall from the Dragon. That's a great engage from Kaiwing as Targamas completely off to the side. And now, Kalist trying to play some alcove gaming, and unfortunately it is not necessarily need to fight for the next round if you don't feel like it. And they can put their focus towards the Dragon that hasn't been taken just yet. As Kaiwing gonna go for another engage. There's the Glacial Prison. Targamas gonna have to flash, does get the anchor out as Doggo picks it up with a double up. That is gorgeous. Kalist gonna be able to walk out of the way of the bullet time though, so Doggo not gonna be getting a double.
Seriously, it's just a great game from the jungle support. Hats off. KC, on the other hand, were once again showing a very worrying habit of splitting target selection in team fights. About the 10:30 or so mark, both squads were squaring up around the first dragon. When the fight broke out, Targamas all in the ulting MF on one side of the fight, while Vladdy and Yike jumped the Sejuani on the other. It's really not pretty, and they get run down afterwards in a pretty disastrous sequence of events.
Well, he is walking around, somewhat in range actually, but it's going to be Yike that wins the Smite War. Hook going to connect, but Targamas is sort of just 1v1ing against Doggo. Junja right in amongst it now. It's Vladdy trying to get out of there. The flash forward from Junja is crazy, and Targamas finds himself caught out. That's a killing spree for Doggo.
After that, with the exception of an overstay around the second dragon after picking up Yike, CFO were just continually punishing the moves that KC made. Vladdy could never find the 1v1s he was after because CFO would collapse in the blink of an eye. KC overstepped one too many times at about the 23-minute mark. They set up a bush bait with 3 members to try and get a quick pick, but it ended up being into 4 members of CFO. Cue a magnet storm into bullet time, and KC's time was up.
What is,
no flash.
He just put his Leandries together, so he does a lot of damage, but they look for the Rel, who just says, I'm going to magnet storm you, and then even crashes down forward. It was a mistake because he dies, but it's going to be a win here for CFO. That is 3 on the bench for KC.
Atakan straight after spelled the last real hope Karmine Corp had in this series. CFO closed it out in short order after that. Baron was taken shortly after spawn. With the exception of some heroics from Canna in the base, KC had run out of fight.
Enemy Nexus. As Targamas thinking about going for heroic engage. Junja able to get out of the way. The Chains of Corruption. That's some buttons on cooldown now. As the Glacial Prison, it'll ring true. Doggo has to cancel his ulti early, but these autos are doing so much. And Honku from over the wall finds another flick. Driver, I don't know about that one, but he gets a big old shield. Let's see whether he is going to go down. Does eventually go into that passive, but honestly, it works out just the way CFO wanted.
They now find themselves at a bleak 0-2. Worse still, their remaining opponents are HLE and TES, the 2 undisputed favorites for first stand. And speaking of top esports, Team Liquid came out the victors yesterday against KC and looked pretty convincing in their 2 wins. Early game 3 notwithstanding anyways. But today's opponent was a different beast entirely. Top Esports fought a bloody loss against HLE just the day before, but they already seemed to have shaken off the frustrations and came into the series with intent. And that manifested at level 1, as TES wielded the power of Ash Braum to just walk at Team Liquid and secure first blood.
Hang on a minute. Oh, who's catching who?
Yeah, it's the sandwich. The audacious charge comes in from Umpty. He is about to get stunned up though, and Umpty might just start this game off dead. The heal does come on through. Yon, immediate cleanse. That's Captain Jack-esque. You love to see it, but you don't love to see the amount of top esports players chasing down TL, and APA is going to be the one that bites the dust.
With Cream's Aurora the recipient of that kill, and APA's Tristana down flash and late to lane, put a lot of pressure on Liquid's mid laner to stabilize. With Kanavi on the Vine, 369 on the Rumble, if mid started falling apart, there was going to be a lot of lane priority all over for Kanavi to sink his teeth into, against what Tristana often wants to provide to a team early on. Liquid's comp was no slouch necessarily. Galio manages the Rumble, Xin Zhao can match the Vi, and is a great vector for that Galio to ult on, and you have two self-sufficient ADCs in Trist and Ezreal to slip away from the TES dive. TL even did a good job of relentlessly punishing Jackie Love's Ashe, who'd blown flash during that level 1. And after a close skirmish around the first dragon, check the sick Rakan engage from Core JJ, it definitely felt like TL could throw a punch or two.
Through very soon.
And Cleanse doesn't do anything against any of these. Double knockup comes through from Core. He will get stunned up, but Jackie Love is in so much trouble. Umpty just a bit body block, but it does not matter. He puts that spear to Jackie and takes him down, and so that is halfway to the goal.
The problem was, TS was just getting more out of the moves they made, and the map in general. That really showed in the solo lanes, with 369 just quietly getting a lead even against the Galio's Rumble, and Cream much more visibly getting ahead of the curve, very much at APA's expense. Cream and Crisp dive the Trist just shy of the 15-minute mark to claim first turret and a very formidable lead for the TES mid laner. Compare that to the Aurora we saw earlier today, and you can see why teams still value it, even if he does end up dying once or twice later, but shh, don't worry about that. Still, it was TES with lane shove, 6 scrubs, and a commanding gold lead, and it was on TL to try and pull the trigger and find their way back into the game. They tried at Herald, but the deep dive from Umpty plus the Galio ultimate only earned them a 2 for 2, with heroics from Crisp's Braum barring a lot of critical damage.
And Crisp, he's going to get knocked up. He is a man with a door and not very many friends in this area. And so he will get stunned up. Arrow going to connect there as well, as the Crescent Guard is used interestingly. Meanwhile, teleport comes in from Cream, and the heroic entrance to try and save the jungler of TL. This is a little bit of a nightmare as Crisp has the door, but Impact just says, get the heck out of here. Rains down that punch with the passive, still finds himself in no man's land.
Afterwards, 369 gets another turret. A 1-for-1 at 19 minutes before Dragon turns into a massive win for TES, after 369 pounces on Yorn as TL tried to contest.
With the team as well.
Ooh, a little bit of an engagement here as Cream completely pushed away. APA finding an ultimate that he was looking for as Cream's all over the place. Meanwhile though, Umpty taking a lot of damage. Impact as well, not as tanky as he otherwise wants to be. And it's a 1-for-1. The problem is it's a 1-for-1 and there's a lot of damage onto that outer turret into the mid lane. And control is still there from top esports.
Feels like with 369 in the area.
Available as well.
They have too many resources. Kanavi has found Core JJ, but it's just more of a warning punch.
Oh, Yon, that's not where he wants to be. The flash does come on through. He cleanses to avoid the slow, and it's heroic from Umpty, but he's still done the equalizer to pick off the AD carry. And it was only a matter of time, the delay, as TDS used all those resources to take down TL.
TL tried again around Atakan, and it's a competitive fight. Another phenomenal engage from Core JJ sends Jackie 6 feet under, but the counter engage is fantastic from the rest of TES to still claim Ruinous Atakan and the Blood Petals, even as Yon gets some flashy kills at the end.
It's still a few seconds away for 369, but it doesn't seem to matter too much as he is in this area. And so Cream, he comes down. TL still haven't pulled the trigger just yet. Remember that combo as the quickness does come on down. Jackie Love is targeted, and there's the Galio delivery. They take down the Ashe immediately. 369 still a fair bit of damage, but Cream pushed away. Umpty very low, but he's done his job for now. Able to move his way out, audaciously charging towards Atakan as it's down to 1,000 health. It's ridiculous. They lose their jungle as Impact realizes that Kanavi's here with a smite, and he can do nothing about it. The Atakan is going to be taken. The Atakan is going to be taken. And it looked so good until it was terrible. All right, never mind. Cream going to be taken out. Here is Yon looking for even more. Crisp running. Remember, this is only them being sent back to bait. No, never mind. It was the other Atakan that I didn't even think existed as the door runs out at just the wrong time.
In short, it just felt like TES was able to come away with more, even from nominally even fights. And those little bonus wins really started to add up in Top's favour. Eventually, it was just too much for Liquid to handle. They dried up at just gone 26 minutes, when Kanavi and Cream wreck Rakan near his own Krugs, with Galluel arriving onto his support's corpse.
As jungle as he can, stay as relevant as possible. Spirit Visage is completed as Core JJ finds a bit of a knock-up onto Kanavi. The Kanavi does not care about that one iota. There's now impact coming in, but he's heroically entrancing onto nothing because Core JJ's already dead. The Winds of War come down, the knock-up onto Cream is decent. APA not auto-attacking, and Yon wasn't quite there yet. And so unfortunately, it's just not quite enough. Cream able to go golden to avoid the turret taking him down. And now Jackie, he's got his fangs in, the frost shot onto Yon, and there's the last auto.
The zone control and spacing completely removes the DPS of TL from the fight, while Kanavi, who has somehow gotten 3.5k ahead of Umpty individually, just walks at TL, menacingly. That decisive fight earns them Baron and more or less ends the game.
Good. Top Esports really bouncing back from a difficult day one.
Game 2 comes up and Liquid get a hold of the prized Kalista, which they pair with Nautilus. Cassante, Maokai and Hui rounded out the roster, which set up for good CC chains but wasn't going to be all that threatening until ults and items came online. Back to that Naut though, where once upon a time it was a prized pairing with Kalista along with, say, an Alistair, a Rel, those kinds of things. These days we see more Renata and Nico, supports that have threat at level 1, level 2, don't have to all in for value, especially when you can lock in a lane that can really dismantle that Kalista plus melee pairing. Cue a Varus Nico from Jackie and Crisp. And yeah, the lane was not fun for Yon. Just watch the first few levels, it's brutal zoning from Crisp. And the rest of the map isn't having much fun either. 369 locks in Aatrox while Cream and Kanavi lock in Pantheon and Sylas. The last and only other time we saw Kanavi on Pantheon this split was in LPL finals, where he out-leveled his own top laner and got 4k ahead individually. Spoiler, he does it again. As for Cream, cue the solo kill mid before junglers have even gotten a reset in. The aggression and willingness to skirmish is a byword for TES this game. Just after, Kanavi goes invading for wolves on second spawn of the game, and Umpty dies on the defense. At the very least, Core's Roam catches TES off guard, and they spare the blushes at the end of the sequence with a return kill. Still, it highlighted the power of early prio and skirmishing, and TL just weren't online yet. The fear was they might never get there at all, especially after Kanavi got access to Grand Starfall and caught TL flat-footed a few times. That wasn't the case though. They actually found a really solid fight after second grub spawn, picking off both 369 and Kanavi, with Yon's Fate Claw keeping Core JJ alive and well to prevent any turnaround.
Again, so optimistic.
Yeah, right?
Cast, you know what I mean? Always looking at the bright side.
Well, this may not necessarily be as much as Top Esports are moving down, trying to push them away as the Brambles come out. Nature is grasping. They do manage to get a few as Kanavi just says no, gives them the shield. And in goes Umpty. They still want to find it. Depth Charge comes down. Pop Blossom connects onto a couple. Kanavi does go down, but there's the Fate's Call to make sure that Core JJ is safe. And 369 singled out and destroyed. TL find a beautiful skirmish.
Unfortunately for Liquid and the North American hopefuls, that felt like the last time TL were able to get a proactive sequence in without TES counter-punching with a haymaker. At 14 or so minutes, Kanavi once again punishes an overextension with his ult in mid lane when Yon and Core try to jump Jackie Love. Worse, when TL tried to dive 369 under his bot tier 1, he just refuses to die.
Spiked really hard. It's a scary position for TL to be in because this is where Top Esports can really break the game open.
Well, they're looking for a dive onto 369. And there's the Fate's Call to start it off. Let's see whether they can get enough burst because he could just get a bunch of that back. And you can see, oh man, the Ren does finally, never mind, it's not enough. And 369 stays alive through it all. Finally, the all out, but 369's still alive. They have to flash for it. And TES, they threw the kitchen sink at 369 and he just said, thank you very much, I'm remodeling my house.
I'd say more guys, but the game was over at this point. Case in point, TES got to use Herald to charge into an inhibitor turret, never mind an outer or inner. TES 2-0. It wasn't always flawless, especially in game 1, but the quiet members of the roster from the day before were a lot more present today. Eyes on Crisp in particular. Other members will understandably get plaudits, but the Braum and Nico were massive factors in both games. But that will do it for today, folks. What do you think of the West's performance today? Is there any chance of a comeback, or is it stinkers all the way to the airport? Let us know in the comments below. Hit those buttons that interact with this video and make sure to follow us on all those socials. See you next time.